Right, Melbourne sitting at just 11 degrees right now, while Darwin S up at 28. Yeah, you heard that right. Melbourne colder than Hobart today, and that is not the weirdest thing about what S coming this week. Is your area about to cop a massive temperature swing that could see things change by 15 degrees in just 24 hours? Because across southeast Australia, we've got a complex low pressure system that's already triggered severe weather warnings from the Bureau of Meteorology affecting New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia. That S impacting around 12 million people. In the next 14 minutes, I am going to break down exactly when your specific location gets hit, which areas are in for the roughest conditions, and why the models are showing something pretty unusual developing by the weekend. But first, chuck your location in the comments right now, whether you are in Cairns, Perth or anywhere in between, because tomorrow I'll be doing personalised forecasts for the areas you mob want covered. Now, let me give you the timing for the major cities. Sydney, rain arrives Thursday morning around 9, heaviest Thursday arvo, clearing Friday. Melbourne, you are looking at showers from Wednesday night, persisting through Thursday, easing Friday morning. Brisbane staying mostly dry until Friday afternoon when we see some scattered storms develop. Perth, clear and warm through to the weekend, then a cool change Sunday. Adelaide, rain Wednesday night into Thursday, clearing by Friday, arvo. Hobart, showers Wednesday evening, clearing Thursday. Darwin, typical afternoon storms Tuesday through Friday. Canberra, rain Thursday morning, heavy at times, clearing Friday. Here, S, the thing though, the Access model and the European model are showing completely different scenarios for how this low develops. Access is suggesting the low stays offshore, giving coastal areas the heaviest rain but keeping the worst winds at sea. The European model reckons this thing tracks closer to the coast, which would bring significantly stronger winds to Sydney, Wollongong and Newcastle. That 100-kilometre difference in the track changes everything for the Central Coast and Hunter regions. We should have a much better idea after tomorrow morning S model runs. So definitely check back because this could go either way at this stage. Let me walk you through what S happening across the country right now. Starting up north, the monsoon trough is sitting right across the top end. Darwin, Katherine and Nhulunbuy, you are seeing your typical build-up season conditions. Afternoon storms, high humidity, temperatures in the low 30s. The dry one be here for another few months yet. So this is just normal business for you lot. Cairns and Townsville, bit of a mixed bag. Some scattered showers around, nothing too dramatic, but we are watching a tropical low developing in the Coral Sea. More on that in about 3 minutes, because there's one detail about this system that S got me a bit concerned. Southeast Queensland, and yeah, look, I know this isn't ideal for Brisbane, the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast. You've been crying out for rain, and this week S looking pretty dry again until Friday. Toowoomba, you might see something Thursday night, but Dante, get your hopes up. The models are showing maybe 5 to 15 millimetres, patchy at best. For those of you running businesses that depend on the weather, like that tent hire bloke from Brisbane I saw in the comments yesterday, Friday into Saturday is when you will finally get a decent drying window. Bundaberg, Gladstone, Rockhampton, you are in a similar boat. Mostly dry, warm days, sticky nights. Now, New South Wales, this is where it gets interesting. The Central Coast, Newcastle, Port Macquarie, you're re-looking at the heaviest falls Wednesday night into Thursday. We are talking 40 to 70 millimetres, locally higher if we get thunderstorm activity embedded in that rain band. The southerly buster that comes through Friday morning will be pretty solid too. Winds gusting to 60, maybe 70 kilometres per hour on the coast. Coffs Harbour, you will get rain Wednesday night, but not as heavy as further south. Wagga Wagga, Dubbo, Orange, you are on the western edge of this system. Rain Wednesday night into Thursday, but we are looking at lighter totals, maybe 10 to 25 millimetres. Sydney, Wollongong, Kiama, Thursday's your wet day. Morning commute will be messy, so if you can work from home, reckon that's your best bet. Hang on, let me clarify that. When I say messy, I am talking proper bucketing down rain during peak hour, not just light showers. We could see localised flooding in low-lying areas if we get those thunderstorms I mentioned. The stormwater drains will be working overtime, especially around Parramatta, Penrith and the western suburbs. Victoria, Melbourne's already feeling that cool change. You are sitting at 18 degrees now, dropping to 11 overnight, then only getting to 15 tomorrow. Geelong, Ballarat, Bendigo, similar story. Showers Wednesday night, persisting Thursday, then clearing. Not huge rainfall totals for you lot, maybe 15 to 30 millimetres across the board. Shepparton, you might dodge most of it actually. The rain band looks like it'll stay south of you. Down on the Mornington Peninsula, I saw your comment about being desperate for rain. You will get some Thursday, not a drought breaker, but better than nothing. South Australia, Adelaide, you are in for a soggy Wednesday night into Thursday. The models reckon 30 to 50 millimetres, which you will definitely appreciate. Mount Gambier, Whyalla, Port Augusta, you are all getting some as well, though lighter amounts the further north you go. This is that classic Southern Ocean front just sweeping across, nothing too unusual, just good solid winter pattern rain, even though it is still technically summer. Tasmania, Hobart and Launceston, you've already seen some showers today and there is more coming Wednesday evening. Devonport, you are looking at showers Wednesday night into early Thursday. Not heavy, just persistent light rain. 10 to 20 millimetres for most areas. The West Coast will see a bit more as always. Western Australia, Perth, you are in for a cracker of a week. Clear skies, warm days, temperatures climbing to 32, 33 degrees by Friday. That Fremantle doctor will keep the coast comfortable in the afternoons, but if you're inland in places like Kalgoorlie, you are looking at 38, 39 degrees. Bunbury, Geraldton, Broome, all staying dry and warm. That cool change I mentioned for Sunday, that LL drop Perth back to about 26 degrees, but nothing dramatic. Northern Territory, Alice Springs, you re-sitting pretty at 36 degrees, dry as a bone. Catherine, ULC afternoon storms develop most days this week. Nothing severe, just typical wet season stuff. Now, about that tropical low I mentioned earlier, currently sitting about 1,000 kilometres east of Cairns in the Coral Sea. The models are showing it potentially developing into a tropical cyclone by the weekend. Could go either way at this stage. If it develops and tracks west, we're re-looking at impacts for North Queensland Sunday into Monday. If it stays out at sea or tracks south, no worries. But this is definitely something we need to keep a very close eye on. I'll have updates on this tomorrow because the next 24 hours of data will be crucial. Here, as what's really interesting though, that low pressure system affecting southeast Australia that I talked about earlier, Access is now showing it could redevelop off the coast of New South Wales Saturday into Sunday. If that happens, we could see another round of rain for Sydney, Newcastle and the Central Coast over the weekend. The European model isn't convinced yet, so there is still a bit of uncertainty around this. The difference between these scenarios is pretty significant because one gives you a dry weekend, the other gives you more rain. Check back tomorrow because we'll have a much clearer picture. At the 3-minute mark earlier, I said there was one thing about that Coral Sea low that concerned me. Here's what it is. The sea surface temperatures in the Coral Sea are currently sitting at 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. That's plenty warm enough to fuel cyclone development. The other factor is the wind shear. Right now it's moderate, which is keeping the system disorganised. But the models are showing that wind shear decreasing Thursday into Friday, which would allow the system to intensify. That's the window we are watching. If the wind shear drops like the models suggest, this thing could spin up quite quickly. For those of you on the coast, beach conditions this week are going to be pretty rough from Newcastle down to the Victorian border. We're re-talking 2 to 3 metre swells, strong rips, not ideal for swimming. Water temperature is still lovely at 23, 24 degrees, but the conditions are dangerous. If you are heading to the beach, stay between the flags, listen to the lifeguards. Fire danger across the country is relatively low this week thanks to all this cloud cover and rain in the southeast. But Western Australia, you need to stay alert. With those temperatures climbing to the high 30s inland and the dry conditions, fire danger ratings are going to be elevated. No total fire ban days forecast yet, but that could change if we get strong winds developing. The fuel loads are still pretty high after last summer, so any ignition could spread quickly. Actually, let me check that again. Thursday and Friday in the eastern wheat belt, fire danger is forecast to reach high to very high. Not catastrophic, but enough that you need to have your bushfire plan ready if you're in that area. Let me get back to those temperature swings I mentioned at the start. Sydney, you are sitting at 23 degrees right now. By Thursday afternoon, during that rain, you'll be down to 17. Then Friday, when that southerly comes through, you will drop to 15. That's an 8-degree drop in 48 hours. Not huge, but noticeable. Melbourne, you are going from 23 degrees yesterday to 15 tomorrow. That's a bigger swing. Canberra, you are the standout. 28 degrees today, dropping to 13 by Thursday. That's 15 degrees in 2 days, which is pretty significant for early February. The compounding factor here is the humidity. Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, even though you are not getting rain, the humidity is sitting at 70 to 85%. With temperatures in the high 20s, that feels like temperature is pushing into the low 30s. It's that sticky, uncomfortable heat that makes sleeping rough. You want to get relief until that weak trough moves through Friday, which might finally trigger some storms. Now, let's talk about what is coming next week, because there's something developing that could be significant. The long-range models are showing another major low-pressure system potentially affecting Eastern Australia around Tuesday or Wednesday next week. Too early to give you specifics on timing or location, but it is definitely something to watch. The pattern we in right now is quite active, which is unusual for February. Normally by now we transitioning to more settled autumn conditions, but this year the atmosphere's got other ideas. If you haven't dropped your location in the comments yet, do it now. I am seeing heaps of you from Newcastle, Brisbane, the Gold Coast, but I want to make sure I am covering the areas you care about most, whether you in Burke, Mount Isa or Esperance. Chuck it in the comments and I'll make sure tomorrow S update includes your area. The Indian Ocean dipole is currently neutral and we in ENSO neutral conditions as well, which means we don't have the strong influence of El Nino or La Nina at the moment. That's actually making medium range forecasting a bit trickier because we don't have those big climate drivers steering the pattern. It's more dependent on individual weather systems, which is why you are seeing this variability in the models from run to run. Looking at the rainfall totals for the week, Newcastle and the Central Coast are your big winners, 50 to 100 millimetres by Friday. Sydney, 40 to 70 millimetres. Melbourne, 20 to 40 millimetres. Adelaide, 30 to 50 millimetres. Brisbane, maybe 10 to 20 millimetres if those Friday storms fire up, but could be nothing. Perth, 0. Darwin, typical 20 to 40 millimetres from afternoon storms. Cairns, 10 to 30 millimetres from scattered showers. The pressure gradient across the country right now is pretty tight between that low in the southeast and the high in the west. That's what is driving those strong winds I mentioned earlier. Isobars are packed together like sardines along the New South Wales coast. When you see that on the synoptic chart, you know winds are going to be solid. One more thing about that weekend forecast. If that redevelopment happens off the coast, we could be looking at east coast low characteristics. That S, when a low pressure system sits just off the coast and just hammers the coastal areas with persistent rain and strong winds. We saw one of these back in 2021 that caused significant flooding around Sydney and the Central Coast. Not saying this one will be that severe, but it's the same type of pattern. We need to watch it closely for the inland areas, Broken Hill, Longreach, Coober Pedy. You're staying dry and warm all week. Temperatures in the mid to high 30s, clear skies, no rainfall. If you are in agriculture out there, the soil moisture is getting pretty low. This system affecting the southeast isn't going to help you much. You need a proper inland trough to develop to get decent rain, and that S not showing up in the models for at least the next 10 days. Right, quick recap. Southeast Australia, wet Wednesday night into Friday. Then we rewatching a potential redevelopment over the weekend. Northeast Australia, tropical low in the Coral Sea could develop into a cyclone. Impacts possible North Queensland Sunday onwards. Western Australia, dry and warm all week. Northern Australia, typical wet season conditions continuing. The models are still showing some differences in the details, particularly around that New South Wales low and the Coral Sea system. So tomorrow, S update will be crucial. I know weather forecasting isn't an exact science and these models change with every run. That is why I'm giving you the uncertainty ranges and showing you where the models disagree. It's not about being perfectly accurate 7 days out. It's about giving you the information you need to plan and adapt as the forecast evolves. Tomorrow's forecast is going to focus heavily on that Coral Sea low and whether it develops. Plus, I'll have updated rainfall totals for that New South Wales system. If you've left your location in the comments, I'll do my best to include specific information for your area. The 12 p.m. model run tomorrow should give us much better clarity on both of those systems. Really appreciate you lot tuning in and engaging with these forecasts. The comments section is always full of great local observations and reports, which actually helps me understand what S happening on the ground. If you are seeing conditions different from what I've forecast, let me know. That real-time feedback is valuable. Tomorrow's video will be up around 5 p.m. Eastern Time, so check back then for the latest. Stay safe out there, especially if you are in those areas expecting heavy rain and strong winds Wednesday night into Thursday. If you are in a flood-prone area, maybe move the car to higher ground overnight, clear those gutters, just basic preparation stuff. Cheers, everyone.